LVMH is owned by a man. There are so many executives and senior positions or owners of companies that capitalize on women feeling insecure. So at least go get your bread, girls. Because they're public figures, they then get so much more criticism for it. No one genuinely thought that some lip liner and a matte stay put lipstick that is impossible to remove, by the way, was going to change how I looked and made me look like them.
Welcome to Stan, the podcast where we dissect our enthusiastic and at times obsessive relationships with cultural phenomena. I mean, have you ever caught yourself unironically insisting that it's not just a phase? Or stayed up all night to finish that book that you just can't put down? Or have you ever had such a huge crush on a celebrity that it made your heart physically ache? I have. So join me as we figure out why certain things or people capture our attention and affection so well. I'm really happy that you're here. They are the women that rappers cannot stop talking about. No matter how you feel about them, they are a household name. Before I even began watching their show, I somehow knew all of their names and their companies and who they were dating. And whilst I dabbled in early episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in the midst of struggling to find post-grad employment during COVID after my offer was rescinded, I really came into my own as a consumer at grad school in 2021. I moved to Paris and I started trying to operate in a language that I hadn't used since my GCSEs. For those of you who didn't grow up in the UK, that's 16 years old. I was back to reading and writing academically and was also transitioning to living in a cold and rainy city after having lived in the desert for a year. Needless to say, it was a lot. And I used to come back home from the library on rainy Sundays, having spent all day reading texts I didn't understand, and I would order from the same dumpling place and watch Hours of the Kardashians in the bath. It was literally the only thing that calmed me down and probably what kept me alive. My brother and I got into a huge argument around that time about whether I was perpetuating something, even if I didn't buy their products or follow them on Instagram or engage with them, in my opinion, in any meaningful way. He posited that in the attention economy, even just passively watching their TV shows can contribute to their personal gain, and he thought it was wrong for me to acknowledge them in any way. As is so evident in this interview, I think that's really difficult because I think the reason we're so drawn to them is because they're a reflection of our own lives, and they're a vehicle through which we're able to begin conversations about boyfriends and sibling dynamics and career jealousy and everything else. I mean, in this interview, we couldn't even get through introductions before we were comparing Khloe's revelations about Tristan Thompson to our own breakups, which is so counterintuitive because their lives are so far removed from our own. And that's something we talk about here, how they've successfully, or not, depending on your version of success, transitioned from being relatable to aspirational, and how they've responded to online critics during that transition. I spoke with Zara, an old friend of mine who grew up literally across the street from me. Zara is one of the many women who taught me you don't need to sacrifice personality and so-called traditionally feminine interest to be taken seriously as a professional. I mean, fast forward to my adult life when I was working for a diplomat at the UN, and she had not noticed me until she burst into my office on a Thursday evening being like, I am seated near the Kardashians at this event, and I need to know more about them so I can make conversation. And I was like, sis, sit down. I got you. When I spoke with Zara, we got into whether the Kardashians defined or just reflect the beauty standard, the ethics of childhood fame, and whether men are ever really able to feel comfortable in the supporting role of a powerful woman. This conversation went in so many directions, and it was so much fun, and Zara is so interesting and intelligent, and I really enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. In honor of this episode, I'm wearing my Skims dress, and amazing. I was sitting around this morning watching the Kardashians, and Khloe said something that really fucking hit me in the stomach. They were talking about Tristan, and she goes, it really pains me that I helped make him into the person that he is today, and someone else is going to benefit from that. And I was like, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's true for my relationships, but especially like dating in your early 20s, you have to tell your partner, boyfriend, maybe if you've dated as awful men as I have, like, it's not okay to sleep in the same bed as your best girlfriend when we're together.
Have I told you my theory on this?
Oh, tell me.
Is my proudest theory of my own. Basically, all men are puppies. Okay? So you get a little puppy and you train it and you teach it how to be a good boyfriend, where you have to be like, don't sleep in a bed with another girl. Buy me birthday presents. This is the flower section of the supermarket. I remember like begging this boy at uni, being like, just reply to my message. Like, just let me know you're thinking about me. I feel like it's like such a common universal experience that girls go through this. Now, this is the key, is that the next boy you date, you need to get a rejected guide dog. They're already kind of boyfriend material because you've done your part for society. But where girls make mistakes is they keep going back for puppies because they're so fucking cute.
I do feel like I've met a lot of boys where I'm like, why are you the way that you are, and why are you so mean? And like, you know, I'm really hurt from my like first girlfriend and I was so in love with her. And I'm like, okay, like get her back. But like, you can't just treat everybody else like shit because someone broke your heart when you were 18. And also, like, you're not the only person in the world who's gone through heartbreak.
Yeah, it is so weird how universal and yet isolating heartbreak is as an experience. Because, you know, when you're going through it, you're like, every song has been written just for me. And then you're like, wait, the fact that every song in the world basically relates to this really means lots of other people feel this too. But I think people don't almost like to relate to things, then that somehow tarnishes the like love or like the specialness or the uniqueness of the situation. So people like to be like, no, you don't understand. It's like, we all understand.
I was also talking to a guy in Dubai. He was like, I feel like every time I fall in love, it's a little bit more cautious.
That is how I feel at the moment. I feel really cynical about relationships. I kind of miss the like naivety of the first time you fall in love and you don't think that it will ever end. And now I'm always like, where's my exit strategy? Back on the Kardashian point, I do think it's really interesting that basically none of them have, I guess now like Courtney, but I don't want to say like able to keep a man because that sounds ridiculous and disgusting, but the intimate relationships like have suffered because we live in such a patriarchal society. As someone who can't fucking throw a ball, I think he is kind of like mid-level. You know, obviously he's on the fucking team, so like yay for him. But I can see how it would be annoying and you have to be very sure of yourself to become somebody's other half in a society where women are always the other half.
I love the qualifier as someone who can't throw a ball. I'm going to start all of my opinions that way. I'll be in a business meeting and be like, as someone who can't throw a ball, these numbers are really off.
I'm not sure about this multiple, but I can't throw a ball, so don't look at me.
Yeah, I agree. Becoming an extension of a family that is so all-consuming, I think that would be really difficult. Do you think you could date a celebrity, like a powerful person like that, and always know that you're the plus one of your partner?
I mean, like straight off the bat, like, yeah, that sounds great. I could just go to Pilates and probably not work. Yeah, I actually haven't ever thought about like the psyche behind that. Maybe this goes back to the whole cheating thing, where my first train of thought went to was, oh, but if they're so successful, I'm so easily replaceable. Just like go out and cheat on me all the time. So that would be a no.
Okay, so it's more of an insecurity thing rather than like a...
Yeah, I think so.
An insecurity in the relationship rather than insecurity in yourself.
Yeah.
But I can think of a lot of couples who have the same social circles, not naming any names, where there's one person who is the one who's invited.
Yeah.
And then there's just another person who's just like XYZs.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's actually start from the beginning. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I am Zara and I live in Sydney, but I'm also from London. And I have loved the Kardashians for a long time. But what really got me into it is on my gap year, I went traveling with one of my best friends and she was obsessed with them. This was 2015. So this was kind of old school Kardashian. So we were watching like Khloe and Kim Take Miami. This was when Kim was in her tight pencil skirt phase from pre-Chris Humphrey's wedding. And we just talked about the Kardashians every single day for so long. But I feel like I have kind of a unique relationship to them because I'm not an avid watcher of the show, but I still, like, I keep up. It's just in my psyche, in my brain. I just feel like I always know what what they're doing. And I find their transition so interesting. And I also love that it's one of those things where if you ever say like they're Kardashian to someone, every man will just like scoff and roll his eyes. And I'm like, do you see how many billionaires they fucking produce? Like, you wish you had an ounce of that.
Two things I want to pick up on that is that whether you want to or not, you know their names. What I find really funny is watching people pretend they don't know their names. They're like, oh, is it like, what's her name? Kim? And I'm like, oh, fuck off. Like, you know who Kim is. Like, it's not going to make you less of a man. Like, chill out. Also, want to pick up on the fact that you said, like, their transition. Like, can you speak more on that?
I think it's so interesting because they've had physical transition. I would go as far as to say that late 90s, you had Alexa Chung, Kate Moss, heroin chic, super skinny, super white. Then Kim was like, I don't fit into that kind of archetype. But suddenly it was all like the boobs and the butt, and you get contour. Obviously, she's done a lot of like questionable things, like every time she braids her hair, and there's a lot of blackfishing. But she did like redefine what beauty looked like. And then obviously Kylie was able to capitalize on that with the Kylie Jenner lip kit. I remember I was going to 18th birthday party, so it was like 2013, 2014. And we're all fucking overlining our lips like crazy. And I just think their ability and to infiltrate and change culture is incredible.
Do you think that was started by them, or do you think...
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the first one, you definitely say that was...
Okay, and then you said the second transition.
Yeah, so I think that was like a physical transition. But then if you watch them, it's so weird to have witnessed them being like kind of tacky. I mean, Kim got famous from a sex tape at a time where it was so scandalous. It gave like Jersey Shore vibes. Kim would hit Courtney with a handbag. Even the filming was kind of, I think the reason they gained so much popularity was they were so honest and they were so raw. Like, I have seen Courtney deliver her children on TV. We got to see Kim get married. So you saw all of that. So it was very real. But it was also, they weren't that unattainable at that point. I mean, they were in terms of like crazy amounts of wealth, but they were just fighting with their sisters and it all felt normal. And now you have this point where when I talk about it with my friends who do still watch the TV show, those problems are so impossible for anyone to relate to. Fair enough. They want their own privacy now. They have their own kids. They don't really need to kind of exploit themselves for money, and their vulnerability. But now they're the Met Gala and they're on the cover of Vogue and they get invited to the White House to talk about prison reform. They hit all these tick boxes of success in so many different realms. Now I don't think they can even go to the supermarket. They can't go anywhere without security. They only fly privately. And they also don't spend that much time together anymore because they have these huge mega mansions.
They used to strike that balance really, really well. They had a lot more money than anyone, but the family dynamics were interesting because they were so recognizable. But I agree with you. They're trying to enter into a new realm of like just aspirational, no more relatable. And I don't think they've done it super successfully, but they do remain so influential.
It's so polished. Like even their interviews, I'm like, you spend 2 hours in hair and makeup. And also a lot of the storylines now, they feel forced and contrived because it's so obvious they don't want to actually talk about what's actually going on with them because, they value their privacy. Which I think makes sense. I don't even think you could really call them reality stars anymore. They're just celebrities.
One of my questions was going to be, describe your relationship with them now. And you're saying you don't feel as invested in their lives.
I'm more interested in like their business ventures. And I always love like a gossip of like who they're dating. But I feel like they have definitely set clear boundaries with themselves and the public. And I just don't feel like you get that same... They used to be kind of messy. Like if you look at some of Kim's old tweets and you're like, that was kind of lame.
I used to feel like people were so invested because they felt like they kind of had a personal relationship with them. The way that people spoke about the Kardashians, it was like they're a friend. I got into them when I was unemployed in Egypt. I just like stumbled across the Kardashians on Netflix and I was like, oh, I want to see what the hype is about. In hindsight, I think it did make me feel less lonely in a time that I was feeling really isolated. I was very careful to distinguish that they were parasocial relationships rather than like actual friends. When I was working at the UN with a group of girls, we used to eat lunch together and we used to like pretend that we were the Kardashians. That we would like do the Courtney voice. It was like a funny little game that were like a bit. And then I skipped out on a work event and another intern went and she met all of the Kardashians, which was just like so weird and serendipitous. And she came back to the office and she spent like 20 minutes talking about them in a way that I was just like, oh, you're talking about them as though they're like your mates. She was like, oh, and Kendall really is the shy one. And I'm like, it's so weird.
But it's not. It's been like investing through their social media. It's buying into their brands. It's watching them on TV. At some point, Kendall and Kylie had books you could read. There was so many touch points and access points that I think you just were really able to create this vision in your head.
I think unconsciously I was probably constructing a very close parasocial relationship with them. And I do feel, because of the old episodes, feel like a sense of closeness that you don't have with other celebrities. Like, I genuinely think it's really interesting. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. Like, I think I would have fallen into exactly the same trap. If I was at a work event with the Kardashians, I would probably be like, Kim said this really funny thing. But also I find that really weird for them. Everyone they meet has so much context. They literally, like, you are literally just a face in the crowd that you walk past for 10 seconds. That imbalance must be really scary and like a lot of responsibility and like really isolating.
The thing I thought you were going to say is I was watching a recent episode and they were trying to find out their biological age versus your chronological age or something, some stupid medical thing to try and be like, we're so fit. So Chloe was the youngest. And then Chloe does her, interview to camera and is like, yeah, suck on that, Kim. The fat, funny sister is 12 years younger. Wow. The fact that you still say that. Don't you think that's crazy? The fact that she's now so skinny, she has all these things and she still brings that up.
But then I think that's also kind of relatable insofar as like the reason why I find a lot of people find families so tense is because when you go back home, like especially I have a big family, you go back home and you regress into what you were as a child. Like everybody fills a role. And as you get older as an adult, you become more of an individual.
Yeah.
But as soon as I go back home or I'm around my siblings, that's what I mean. Like watching that familial dynamic for me was quite cathartic because I was like, oh, everybody struggles with these family things. And I remember actually one conversation that I had with you like years and years ago that made me feel a lot closer to you was we were like, yeah, we're at this transition point in our lives where we used to think our families were uniquely difficult. And then you kind of hit a stage where you become like a fully formed person / adult. And you see the humanity in your parents. And then you also become more attuned to your friends' families, complications.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, my parents are just people.
And you're like, oh, you have your own regrets and losses. Like, you're not just here to like, just cook for me.
Yeah, exactly. And like raise me. But that's why I feel it's so unsurprising to me that she was like, oh, I'm the funny fat sister. You fall back so easily back into the role that you had when you were like 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Back on our how they're less relatable. I think there was a lot of things going on. I think Kanye was a big decider because he kind of elevated Kim to a celebrity within her own right. I also think Chloe losing all that weight and getting a nose job. A lot of people have been like, well, there's a shift now. We watched for Chloe or we watched for Courtney and Scott and their crazy dynamic. I used to love watching Scott. It was ridiculous. And obviously, you now look back and you're like, she was horrible and toxic.
You see as well the media training. As I said before I, logged onto this call, I was watching the Kardashians. I was noticing that exact same thing. Now they edit the talking heads kind of interviews in a way that not only do they look flawless, but also every sentence is a soundbite.
It's not even about the show format anymore. They're like, how can we put this on Reels? How can we put this on TikTok?
That's obviously less appealing in comparison, for instance, Dakota Johnson or Renee Rapp, who were less aggressively media trained. It's like signs of life.
Yeah, and personality. And I think that's what people connect to, and that's what they've lost. And I don't think that they care that they've lost it. I think this is what they've always wanted to achieve. There's one question that I really like. It was the conversation surrounding beauty standards. I know we sort of touched on how their beauty standards changed, but I don't think we touched on how they capitalize off that change. A part of me is like, yay, Skims and Kylie Cosmetics. LVMH is owned by a man. There are so many executives and senior positions or owners of companies that capitalize on women feeling insecure. So at least go get your bread, girls. Because they're public figures, they then get so much more criticism for it. No one genuinely thought that some lip liner and a matte stay put lipstick that is impossible to remove, by the way, was going to like change how I looked and made me look like them. But I think it's just kind of that hope and that like, okay, well, I'll spend $20 and maybe I'll just be a little bit more like them. And I think the idea that they kind of have this army of hairdressers and makeup artists and chefs and trainers that make them look like this. And then they say, oh, but actually, if you just buy my shapewear, maybe you'll look a little bit like this. Are they the bad people for just making money? And it's not their problem.
What they were already just contributing to a context wherein women are made to feel inferior.
And I also think like timing is so important here. Like I really like, what is that TikToker, like Maddie Argyle? I think that's her name.
Oh, Madeline Audrey.
Yeah. And she's always on the camera with her little like pimple patches on. She's obviously completely stunning, but there is more relatability coming through now where celebrities and influencers are trying to be like, no, this is the authentic me. Like I get insecure too, which is something I don't think the Kardashians have done a good job of. And I think there was that really interesting point that Kylie brought up in one episode. And it was an annoying thing because it was a great soundbite and then they kind of never fleshed it out more. But now that they are parents and being like, I don't want my daughter to grow up thinking she needed to get a boob job at 18. I think she's so beautiful. And you're like, yeah, but you made a lot of girls feel like that. But again, like Kylie was a girl herself at the time. Like, and as we were saying with like, you ever fully formed adults? Do you look at Kim and go, oh, well, you're 40, so you should know better? Like, I'm sure she has her own amount of insecurities. And she's also just trying to fit into the narrative that's pushed on her.
I agree with everything you said. Another thing that I would also posit is that they are not free of it insofar as like they're reacting to their own insecurities, but also times 100,000. Because if they post a photo of themselves, there's always going to be someone who's like,
look fat, are you pregnant? What's wrong with you?
I have the thinnest skin of all time. I've gotten into this habit recently of like, if I try something new with my makeup or I try a new hairstyle when I'm going out, I will text people I'm going out with and be like, hey, I'm trying this thing. I feel really weird and insecure about it. Like, but the fact that I feel comfortable telling my friends that and I'm able to experiment without opinions being volleyed into my face and therefore being able to isolate, like doing my eye makeup this way makes me feel confident. And that's all that really matters. As a 16-year-old, if I care about what some crusty boy thinks about like the outfit that I'm wearing to, a house party, a social, then I do not think I would have been able to survive a gossip magazine being like, she's got really thin lips. So like, as much as people demonize them for having had work done or facing their photos or whatever, you have to imagine the pressure that they're under at such a young age. Like,
especially Kendall and Kylie.
Yeah, but because they were subject to such vitriol and criticism, and they were trying to meet a standard that other people were putting on them, it's a vicious cycle. Like, I don't think they're completely free of guilt, but I do think they weren't acting in a vacuum where they were like, I'm going to make myself impossibly good looking just for the fun of it. I think they were just trying to alleviate their own anxieties and their own insecurities as well.
I mean, and there's that story, and I also think I think it's hard to judge them from today's lens, because if you look back at like what tabloids were printing like 10 years ago, it's so different to what they would print now. Like, remember the Daily Mail? And also remember when people would just read those crap magazines like Hello Magazine all the time?
Dude, yeah.
And it would always be front page. And when Kim went the first time she went to the Met Gala and she was pregnant and she had the matching gloves and the whole dress and everyone said she looked like a couch. And then, seasons later, she admitted she didn't even go to the after party. She just went and cried because everyone was so horrible.
Oh.
She wouldn't have gotten dressed thinking I look horrible. She would have gotten dressed going, I'm excited. She wasn't even actually invited. She was only invited as a guest of Kanye. Like, that. Imagine everyone just being like, you look disgusting. You look horrible. You don't deserve to go. I'm not saying we necessarily need to feel like sympathy for these people, but I don't like demonizing women for finally capitalizing on something that men have been capitalizing on for ages.
Yeah. Or making the best of a horrible situation.
Of a bad situation.
I agree. And I do think the conversation is changing. Like you said, stuff that was published in the tabloids when we were in high school, I don't think it would be acceptable to do now. But then what will come up on my Instagram is people zooming into photos of celebrities and being like, oh my God, the filler's migrated, her face is so puffy. You backed this person into a beauty standard that is like unattainable.
Yeah.
And now you're criticizing them for trying whatever they had to do in order to avoid that criticism. You can't win insofar as people were criticizing Chloe for being fat.
And now they criticize her for being skinny.
There's nothing you can do. So I agree. Like, I do think they have set an unhealthy standard for beauty. And I do think people could be more open about whether they've gotten work done.
And to not continue the cycle as well.
Exactly. And I do think we're making steps there, but having no appreciation of the context that we as a society created to make those people feel like they had to go under the knife is fucking nasty.
And you've got to remember part of that context as well is there weren't influencers. Everyone was like, what do you do? They were like the first famous for being famous. They weren't like Jennifer Lawrence, who had an acting talent that she was able to be like, no, I'm really good and I'm not going to lose weight. Like, they were very moldable. You know, it wasn't like they could suddenly turn around and be like, no, I'm not losing that weight, so give me a bigger size. Like, I think that's the part that I'm so fascinated by them, is they really are just like a molded creation of society.
Yeah, because you can't rest on your laurels. There's nothing to fall back on. I hadn't even thought about that.
The people like Alex Earl, who were super open about like her like acne journey, which I think is great. But that's because it's kind of legitimized. Everyone understands what a content creator is. That is a job. And they weren't really, they don't create content.
Yeah. Well, actually, one thing I did want to say, speaking about transitions and redefining beauty standards, we would be doing a disservice to this conversation without talking about how the Kardashians shaped what fame is. Because previously, I mean, yes, there were very few socialites.
But they were often like either super wealthy heiresses or models. Like Alexa Chung, Kate Moss, Paris Hilton, like they all had other things.
In Dubai, people are so nasty about influencers because a lot of influencers are around Dubai. And I think it all comes from insecurity. Like, I'm working a corporate job in Dubai.
I'm working 80 hours a week and you make more money from posting a bikini picture.
Exactly. So like, I think all of that criticism just comes from like jealousy.
And
I do have a few influencer friends in Dubai and they work really hard as well. But I often find myself, especially with like work colleagues and also within my own family, it is so easy to just shit on influencers. Still, like, I think we're moving towards understanding content creation as a career, for better, for worse, but they're still not quite seen as legitimate. And I'm like, you know what, honestly, like, I'll say it, if I had the wherewithal as a 16, 17-year-old to make YouTube videos rather than like, I don't know, like, what was I even doing at 16, 17?
Do our fucking GCSEs.
Which I wouldn't have needed if I was like a multi-billionaire. Like, my dream job is Amelia de Moldenberg.
Cool, I love her.
She's so cool. She seems really funny and really smart. Whether she is or not, I don't know. I don't know her personally. But like, what she's created, I'm like, oh my God. I know I'm being very reductive and dismissive about a job that I don't necessarily understand, but I'm like, if I could sit in a fucking chicken shop and interview famous people and like go onto the carpet for Vanity Fair as a job, holy shit. So when people are being critical about it, I'm like, honestly, we're just jealous. Like, and that's fine.
Well, because also I think a lot of people, they're like, yeah, but I could do it if I wanted to. And I'm like, fuck, try. Have you tried making a TikTok video? It's fucking hard. Even in my own job, I had to go to a networking event on Thursday and I was like, this is exhausting because I'm a chatty person with my friends. People are like, oh, you think I hate going into a room where I don't know people. I do not have a personality where I can automatically make someone feel at ease. And that is a skill. And I think that's what influencers and content creators have. They have like a personality and they're personable. You know, some people are personable. Some people are good at math. Some people can play the piano. Like, who are we to rank what that is?
I'm so aware of the fact that the reason that I have the job that I have is much less to do with my own like hard work and talent and much more to do with the opportunities that I was given educationally and like society as a child that a lot of people don't have. So if you are working with what you've got and you become a content creator, you've really advocated for yourself in a way that I just don't think I could do, and I definitely don't have the confidence to do. Have you ever felt the need to defend the Kardashians?
Often against men at work. I feel like I often defend their business accomplishments because, like we were literally just saying, I think people just really like to dismiss them. And I think you can't negate the fact, that Kylie Cosmetics got sold for $1 billion. They have produced really, really great businesses. And the fact that you just want to be like, oh yeah, but it all came because she had a sex tape. I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there with sex tapes that don't have billion-dollar businesses. I totally understand not liking them because you don't like what they represent. Completely diminishing their accomplishments is very annoying.
I do chafe against the idea calling them self-made women. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily accurate. There has to be some sort of middle ground between having Kylie on the cover of Forbes and also just diminishing everything that they've done because of the fact that they've had a sex tape. I'm not sure how true this is. I have pointed out the dynamic that maybe Kris is financially exploiting her children.
For her 10%, baby. She is a self-made woman. She only met Robert Kardashian because she was a flight attendant.
Yeah.
And she served him in first class.
We have to meet a middle ground of being like, okay, they're really privileged. It's not quite accurate to say that you're a self-made woman, but also recognize that a lot of them didn't necessarily ask for it. 3 of the 5 sisters have come out and been like, I do not want to be famous and I never wanted to be famous. And I can't imagine being a 10-year-old. It's like a child star, a 10-year-old being thrown into reality TV and then being like, you know what, I got to make the most of the cards that I was dealt. Yep. Do you think that they or other celebrities are actually happy?
That is such a good question. No. I think Kourtney might be happy. I think Kim is not. I think she tries to be happy. If you said you can be Kim Kardashian for a day, I'd say, oh my God, yes, please. If you said you can be Kim Kardashian forever, I would say no.
Yeah, I agree. Celebrities talk about it all the time in a way that is so overt, but people just don't really want to listen, that they are deeply unhappy. If you listen to any album and you actually listen to the lyrics, it's all like, I thought this is what I wanted. And as soon as I got it, I realized that it's just made me more and more unhappy.
Yeah, because you just become more and more isolated. People use you for clout and money.
It almost, we don't want to acknowledge that, I think, societally, that that's not something necessarily to aspire to, that level of fame.
No, but that fucks up all of capitalism if basically more money doesn't equal more happiness, which is what we've all been fed to believe.
And it comes back to what we were saying about heartbreak earlier, that as humans, the capacity for introspection makes us all think that our, troubles and our sadness and our worries are really unique. So-and-so couldn't possibly feel this way because she has so much money, or so-and-so couldn't possibly be as heartbroken as me because they don't know how special our relationship was, and how that we all convince ourselves that nobody is having the same internal experiences. That's the trouble with parasocial relationships. I think they can be really inspiring and they can be really helpful to people. But the flip side of that is you are never getting the whole context of a person, and you're taking that relationship, what you need from it. And as I see more and more online every day, a lot of people need a reason to be bitter and need a reason to feel like their struggles are more important and more profound than anybody else's. If that's what you're taking from your parasocial relationships, like a reason to be unhappy, distance yourself. It's not for you.
Yeah, if you watch the Kardashians and you're going, wow, only be happy when I'm on a yacht in the south of France. I'm never going to be on a yacht in the south of France, and I'm okay with that. I don't want to be on a yacht in the south of France. I get seasick.
I was just about to say, the whole yacht thing, everyone always uses it as an example. I get violently seasick, so I'm
yeah, I think it's not for me. Same thing at moon. I do not want to go to space.
Also, with boats, I really struggle because it's like a contained area.
Yeah. Also, how annoying to not be able to go to all the yummy Italian or French restaurants and have to fucking sit on your boat. That's fun. It's not baggy.
Let's get into the controversies. Is there anything that you were like, that really crossed a line?
I think there's a lot of things. I think a lot of the lying about the plastic surgery is really annoying and grating. I think the way in which Kim in particular sometimes kind of talks of, when she was like, get your fucking ass up and work. I didn't like that from her. But it's so easy to pick on people and pick on things. I think analyzing how they affect us is really interesting, but on my day-to-day, I don't need to idolize them. And I think that's something that you always have to you can unlearn. But I don't think part of that unlearning needs to be hating. The part that gets me is the balloons. Stop with all the fucking balloons. True's first day at school, huge balloons. Balloons are not good. Balloons kill turtles. And they do that for everything, like every anniversary, every birthday. There's so many flowers and there's so many balloons. And I think the overly lavish kids' parties are really weird. Imagine if you were just like kind of a normal kid in California going to school and like North was like, come into my birthday party. And you were like, there's mini Lamborghinis here.
I think it's probably for PR.
Like sponsored by Disney Plus.
That's what I mean. The encouragement of overconsumption and how that's affecting our planet and also how that's affecting people financially, that I think is unnecessary. Two, I do think they could be more vocal on social issues. I mean, this is a whole other thing about like celebrities and is it their job to be advocates? But I think incidents of racial insensitivity there have been a lot.
The fact that they actually haven't got cancelled is ridiculous. I find that really interesting as well, how they've kind of been immune the whole time.
I'm not going to speak on this with any authority, but I have seen a lot of like criticism, specifically from Black women, saying you are profiting off of something that does not belong to you with no acknowledgement. And that makes me uncomfortable. And like I can 100% see that those are valid concerns.
It's interesting, that idea that everyone's opinion, just because we can share it now, should be shared.
Yeah, I agree.
And like, should we really be looking to our celebrities to give us political guidance or moral guidance? Like, some of them are really corrupt, horrible people. Or not horrible. I don't know. I have some friends that I take guidance from, other friends that I love, but I am not going to take financial advice from them.
I completely agree. And this is the theme of what's come up a lot in these conversations is like, we put these expectations on people who are, yes, in the public eye and like do have some sense of responsibility, but we don't mitigate that with the understanding that we don't think XYZ is sitting at home doing their research. If it's something that they feel very passionately about, then like, yes, speak on it. But every social issue.
No, and also that is hard. Like, how are you meant to know exactly what to do about the environment and to do with wars? And there's a lot of topics in the world. Yeah, I find it really interesting. Like, I don't think anyone should come to me for political advice. I'm quite an educated person, and I've spent my life kind of like in a corporate environment where I've had proliferal kind of news information flow. Why do I think an American pop star would know more? But again, you've got a platform. Should you be using it? It's so interesting. And I don't think there's a wrong answer or a right answer.
I also think you've got to be responsible with the social issues that you do speak on, or you have to be aware of the influence that you're going to have.
Yeah, you can't just repost an Instagram story. Like, you have to have it fact checked. Like, you're now sharing this not with your 200 followers, but your 200 million.
I think when it does affect you personally, and also you have made an indication that you feel one way or another, you should clarify, this is the research that I've done behind it. This is how I feel. You are free to feel however you want to feel.
I appreciate with the election coming up, a lot of celebrities not being like, vote this way, but they're just like, register to vote. Here is research. When you do your own research.
Yeah. I think also what's really healthy for me, or has been really healthy for me, is I grew up in the UK, the US, Western Europe, places where US talks about itself as though it is the most consequential power in the world. In some ways, it is because of foreign policy and money and weapons donations. Like, that is very true. But I remember moving to Egypt and talking to the person I was seeing at the time, who was the least politically involved person ever. And the way that he was speaking about the US elections, because it was 2020. So when there was the race between Trump and Biden, and he was like, yeah, I know the basics and stuff, and I know how it will affect me, but it's not really my responsibility to care about abortion policy in the US or like gun policy in the US. And I was like, you're so right. You're so right. Like, why did I feel I was getting angry? Because I was like, how do you not know any of this? And he was like, okay, you tell me about the history of Egyptian politicians since the 90s. And I was like, that is fucking fair. My last question is, who is your current celebrity crush?
Current celebrity crush.
I ask everybody this question and they always stress out about it. And I'm like, why?
Current celebrity crush. I quite like Jacob Elordi, but I could do like a Chris Hemsworth.
Okay. I like the way they're both Australian. Nice.
Who's your current celebrity crush?
Oh, it changes day by day. Dead or alive?
Both. One of each, please.
Okay, fair enough. I was listening to a lot of Bob Marley yesterday to get me through a particularly boring day of spreadsheets. And I was like, can't help myself. Love him. Most recently, it's got to be Saint Laurent.
Is he the singer? I don't like his mustache.
I'm not a mustache girl.
Because a lot of people are. And I respect that. Plus, it would, fit with your Italian heritage, like Mario and Luigi.
Okay, that's offensive. But I don't mind facial hair.
He's an aura.
Yeah, he's got like a charisma. He's an activist. He's trilingual. Like I think he does it very well.
You know who I have been having a huge crush on, but I kind of diminished because I saw him in person with Central C.
I saw him in person too. Wait, okay, tell me everything.
And I was with Juge and Liz on Friday when I was in London a couple weeks ago. And I was like, guys, I have to admit something to you. I'm like obsessed with Central C. Like I have such a big crush on him. He grew up in Ladbroke Grove. I grew up really close to Ladbroke Grove. And then on Saturday, we're at Peggy Goo. And she goes, I have a surprise guest. And it's fucking Central C. I'm like, anyway, he didn't find me in the crowd and decide that he wants to love me. And I'm limited by height because I'm so tall. There's like, je ne sais quoi.
Thanks so much for joining us. Please give us a good rating if you're able, and if you hated it, then you literally don't have to listen ever again. With special thanks to my interviewee and everyone else who made this possible, including the friends that gave me the deluded confidence and equipment to record these episodes. Everything stated in these episodes are solely opinions and should not at all be taken as fact. Bye!